Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the human ship Defiance. The stars outside looked peaceful, but his comm system was buzzing with urgent messages. He had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 months. Was supposed to be a quiet mission, Captain. We're getting a priority signal from Earth, said Lieutenant Tom Parker, his communications officer. It's marked as urgent diplomatic traffic. Jake frowned. Urgent diplomatic messages usually meant trouble. Put it through to my ready room, Tom, and get me Admiral Collins on a secure channel as soon as possible. The message that came through made Jake's blood run cold. The Galactic Council had issued humanity an ultimatum. They wanted humans to stop expanding beyond their home solar system. They demanded that Earth surrender all advanced artificial intelligence technology. Most shocking of all, they wanted humans to submit to genetic modifications that would limit their population growth and aggressive tendencies. The deadline was 30 days. Jake read the message 3 times before its full meaning sank in. Council was treating humanity like a dangerous animal that needed to be caged. After 50 years of peaceful cooperation, the aliens had decided that humans were too much of a threat to be allowed freedom. Meanwhile, 300 light-years away on the Council's main station, Dr. Lisa Bennett watched the vote with growing horror. She had served as humanity's representative to the Council for 5 years. She thought she understood alien politics. She was wrong. The Council chamber was a massive dome filled with representatives from 12 different species. Each species had evolved on different worlds under different conditions. The Zethkari were tall reptilian beings with green scales and yellow eyes. The Veltara looked like giant insects with multiple arms and compound eyes. The Morthic were aquatic creatures who needed special suits to survive in air. Despite their differences, they all seemed to agree on one thing: humanity was dangerous. The motion is carried, announced Councillor Zethkari, the current council speaker. His voice carried the authority of someone who had ruled his own world for centuries. The human species will comply with the stated demands within 30 standard days, or face complete isolation from galactic civilization. Dr. Bennett stood up from her observation seat. As humanity's representative, she had the right to speak, but not to vote. That privilege was reserved for the 12 major species who had founded the Council. Councillor Zethkar, I request permission to address the Council, she said, keeping her voice steady despite her anger. Permission granted, but be brief, the reptilian alien replied. The matter has been decided. How can you make this decision without even consulting us? Dr. Bennett asked. Humans have been peaceful members of galactic society for 50 years. We have followed all Council laws. We have shared our technology and culture freely. Has changed? Ambassador Veltar, the Insectoid Council member, clicked his mandibles in what Lisa knew was a sign of irritation. Your species expands too quickly. You build too many ships. You ask too many questions about things that do not concern you. Most concerning of all, you create artificial minds that think and feel like living beings.
Ow.
Our AI systems are carefully controlled, Dr. Bennett protested. They serve humanity, not the other way around. For now, hissed Veltar. But your kind never knows when to stop. You push boundaries. You take risks. You refuse to accept limits. This makes you dangerous to the established order. Dr. Bennett looked around the chamber, hoping to find support. Among the other species, the Morthic representative had abstained from the vote, as had the peaceful Keflin. But the other 10 species had voted to constrain humanity. We are not your enemies, she said finally. We want to be partners in building a better galaxy. Then you will accept our terms, Zethkari said with finality. The vote is concluded. You have 30 days. Back in space, Captain Morrison was trying to process what he had learned from Admiral Collins. The old soldier's face on the video screen looked grim, but determined. Jake, I won't lie to you, Collins said. This is bad. But it's not unexpected. We've been monitoring Council communications for years. We knew this day might come.
What?
Are your orders, sir? Morrison asked. Continue your patrol, but be ready for anything. The Council is moving ships toward our borders. They want to make sure we can't run away from their ultimatum. Collins paused. then smiled grimly. They're about to learn something important about humans. We don't run from bullies. On Earth, the news of the Council's ultimatum spread quickly. President Kate Walker called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Representatives from every nation gathered in the secure conference room beneath the Capitol. Ladies and gentlemen, President Walker began, we face the greatest threat in human history. The aliens who welcomed us into their galactic community now want to put us in chains. General Ryan Hayes, the military representative, spoke up. Ma'am, we've been preparing for this possibility. Our intelligence services have been tracking Council military capabilities for decades. We have options. What kind of options? Asked the representative from the European Federation. The kind that the Council doesn't know about, Hayes replied carefully. We've learned a lot in 50 years of galactic citizenship. We haven't been idle. President Walker nodded. The question before us is simple. Do we accept the Council's demands and live as prisoners in our own solar system? Or do we stand up for humanity's right to determine its own future? The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not bow to alien threats. Dr. Bennett managed to get a private communication channel to Earth before leaving the Council station. Her message was brief, but important. They're scared, she told Admiral Collins. That's why they're doing this. Human expansion has been faster than any species in Council history. Our technology is advancing at a rate that makes them nervous. They see us as a threat to their control over the galaxy. Are we a threat? Collins asked. Maybe, Bennett admitted, but not in the way they think, or a threat to their stagnant way of thinking. We ask questions they don't want asked, solve problems they've given up on, refuse to accept that things have to stay the same forever. Collins nodded grimly. Then they've made their choice, and we'll make ours. As the communication ended, Captain Morrison's ship detected something alarming. Long-range sensors showed massive alien fleet movements near the borders of human space. The Council wasn't just threatening humanity with isolation. They were preparing for war. Morrison called his senior officers to the bridge. Lieutenant Parker, Engineer Sally Davis, and Tactical Officer Mike Johnson gathered around the display screen. Gentlemen, lady, Morrison said formally, it looks like we're about to make history. The question is, what kind of history we want to make. Sir, said Tactical Officer Johnson, my sensors show over 500 alien ships moving into position around human space. They're not here for a friendly chat. Engineer Davis spoke up. Captain, I've been monitoring our long-range communications. There's a lot of coded traffic between Earth and the outer colonies. Something big is happening. Morrison smiled grimly.
Ow.
Something big is about to happen. The Council thinks they can intimidate humanity into submission. They're about to learn. Why, that's a very bad idea. As if to emphasize his point, Morrison's communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. It was from President Walker herself, broadcasting to every human ship in space. My fellow humans. The President's voice was calm but determined. Today we face a choice that will define our species for generations to come. We can accept alien chains, or we can show the galaxy what humanity is really made of. I know what choice we will make. We choose freedom, choose our own destiny. Among the stars, Captain Morrison looked at his crew. They were young, but their eyes showed the same determination he felt. Humanity would not go quietly into the cage the aliens had prepared. All stations, prepare for combat operations, Morrison ordered, and sent a message to Admiral Collins. Tell him Captain Morrison and the crew of the Defiance are ready to show the galaxy what humans do when someone tries to push us around. The ultimatum had been delivered. Humanity's response was about to begin. The countdown began the moment President Walker finished her speech. 30 days to prepare for what might be the end of human civilization as they knew it. But instead of panic, something remarkable happened across human space. People got to work. General Ryan Hayes stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's capital. The walls were covered with displays showing ship movements, resource allocations, and strategic plans. Officers hurried back and forth carrying reports and updates. Hayes had been planning for this day for 20 years. Status report, Hayes called out to his staff. Colonel Nina Torres stepped forward. She was small and quick, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Sir, Operation Lighthouse is ahead of schedule, We've evacuated 60% of the outer colonies already. The Council surveillance ships are tracking our movements, but they have no idea how many people we're actually moving. Hayes nodded with satisfaction. Good, what about the manufacturing sites? Chief Martinez reports all hidden shipyards are operating at maximum capacity, Torres replied. The Council thinks we have maybe 200 ships total.
They're going
to be very surprised. In a classified facility on Mars, Dr. Alex Chen was showing Admiral Collins something that would change everything. The laboratory was filled with strange machines and weapon prototypes. Chen had been working on these projects in secret for years. Admiral, I present Project Prometheus, Chen said, gesturing to a sleek device that hummed with contained energy. We've been reverse engineering alien technology since our first contact with the Council. But we didn't just copy their designs, we improved them. Collins examined the weapon carefully. It looked like a cross between a human plasma rifle and alien energy technology. How much better? Our plasma cannons hit 30% harder than standard Council weapons, Chen explained proudly. Our shields can absorb twice as much damage. And our jump drives can make calculations 50% faster than anything the aliens have. How is that possible? Collins asked. Chen smiled, because we think differently. The aliens built their technology to last forever and never break down. We built ours to work better. Human engineering focuses on performance over permanence, Admiral. Collins picked up one of the new weapons. It felt good in his hands, balanced and deadly. How many of these do we have? Enough to equip every human ship in space, with plenty of spares, Chen replied. We've been preparing for this day since we first joined the Council. We learned early that being nice doesn't always keep you safe. Meanwhile, Commander Nina Torres was leading a very different kind of operation. Her teams were evacuating human colonies throughout the galaxy. But they weren't just running away. They were relocating to places the Council didn't know about. Torres stood on the bridge of the transport ship Liberty, watching as the last families from the mining colony on Kepler 442b came aboard. The planet had been home to 50,000 humans. Now it looked empty and abandoned. Commander, called Lieutenant Bob Martinez from the engineering station. That's the last transport. All civilians are aboard and ready for jump. The infrastructure? Torres asked. Martinez grinned. All set. When the Council comes to inspect this place, they'll find exactly what we want them to find. Empty buildings, shut down factories, and a few maintenance robots to make it look like we left in a hurry. Torres nodded. What the Council wouldn't find were the hidden weapon caches, the underground bunkers full of supplies, or the secret communication arrays that would let human forces coordinate attacks from bases the aliens didn't know existed. Jump us out of here, Torres ordered. Next stop is New Geneva. Let's go collect some more refugees on Earth. Historian Dr. Mary Johnson was doing research that seemed unrelated to military preparation. She was studying old human conflicts and wars, but her work was just as important as building weapons or moving people. Johnson sat in her office surrounded by books and computer displays. She was looking at patterns in human warfare throughout history. What she found was encouraging. Admiral Collins, she said during their weekly briefing, I've been analyzing human military performance when we're outnumbered. The results are interesting. How interesting? Collins asked. Humans have won major conflicts against superior numbers over 40% of the time throughout our history, Johnson explained. We're particularly effective when we use unconventional tactics and when we're fighting for our survival. She brought up a display showing historical battles. At Thermopylae, 300 Spartans held off an army of hundreds of thousands. During World War II, smaller forces defeated larger ones repeatedly through superior tactics and motivation. In Vietnam, guerrilla fighters defeated the most powerful military in the world. Collins studied the information carefully. What's the key factor? Adaptability, Johnson said without hesitation. Humans change tactics faster than any other species we've encountered. When something doesn't work, we try something else immediately. Most alien species stick to established battle plans even when they're failing. As the days passed, the scope of human preparation became clear. Chief Engineer Bob Martinez was overseeing the most ambitious construction project in human history. Hidden shipyards throughout the galaxy, were building a fleet unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Martinez stood on the observation deck of Shipyard Alpha, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the Vega system. Below him, workers swarmed. Over dozens of ships under construction. These weren't the big, slow vessels that most species favored. They were fast, deadly, and designed for hit-and-run attacks. Chief called engineer Sally Davis from across the deck. The new destroyers are ready for testing. Want to see what human engineering can do? Martinez followed her to the test bay, where a sleek ship waited. It was half the size of a Council. Destroyer, but packed with more firepower. More importantly, it could accelerate and maneuver far better than anything the aliens had. "How many of these beauties do we have?" Martinez asked. 500 and counting, Davis replied. Plus 200 heavy cruisers, 50 carriers, and about 3,000 fighter craft. All hidden, all ready, all equipped with the new weapons from Dr. Chen's project. Martinez whistled softly. Council thought humanity had maybe 200 ships total. They were about to discover that humans were very good at keeping secrets. Back at Council headquarters, Counselor Zethkari was receiving reports that puzzled him. His intelligence officers were telling him that human colonies were being abandoned. Ships were moving toward Earth. It looked like humanity was preparing to make a desperate last stand at their home world. Excellent, Zethkari told his military. Commander, General Crickstar. The humans are doing exactly what we expected. They're gathering all their forces in one place where we can destroy them easily. But Counselor Murthok, whose aquatic species had fought border skirmishes with humans before, was not so confident. General, I urge caution. Humans are not predictable. When they appear to be retreating, they may actually be preparing something unexpected. Crickstar, a militant alien whose species had conquered 12 worlds, dismissed the warning. One species cannot stand against the combined might of the Council. We have 3,000 ships. They have perhaps 200. The outcome is inevitable. Murthak S. Gill slits fluttered with concern. That's what we thought during the border war of 2381. The humans had fewer ships then too. But they used tactics we had never seen. They turned our strengths against us. This time will be different, Crickstar insisted. This time we will use overwhelming force. There will be no clever tactics when they're outnumbered 15-1. The deadline approached. Dr. Paul Baker was conducting a different kind of warfare. Baker was a psychologist who specialized in understanding alien minds. His job was to make the Council nervous. Baker's team had been broadcasting carefully selected information about human history to Council worlds. They showed footage of human warriors throughout history. They played recordings of human battle. Songs. Most effectively, they shared testimonies from aliens who had encountered humans in combat. The psychological impact is working, Baker reported to Admiral Collins. We're getting intelligence reports that several Council species are having second thoughts about the war. The Keflin have officially declared neutrality. The Morthic are asking for guarantees that their worlds won't be targeted. Collins smiled grimly. Fear is a weapon too. If we can make them doubt their victory before the shooting starts, we've already won half the battle. On the final day of the ultimatum, Captain Morrison received new orders. His ship Defiance was to join a task force assembling near Jupiter. As he piloted his ship toward the rendezvous point, Morrison was amazed by what he saw. Hundreds of human ships were gathering in space. Not the old, slow vessels the Council knew about, but sleek new warships that looked like they were built for speed and violence. Morrison realized that while the world had been watching the countdown, humanity had been preparing for war. Captain called his communications officer. Incoming message from Admiral Williams. Morrison had heard of Sam Williams, but never met him. Williams was a legend in the human fleet, a tactical genius who had never lost a battle. The 30 days ended at exactly midnight, Earth time. Admiral Sam Williams stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the countdown timer reach 0. Round him, his officers waited for orders. Throughout human space, hundreds of ships held position, ready for what would come next. At Council headquarters, Counselor Zethkari expected to receive humanity's surrender, Instead, he got a simple message transmitted on all frequencies. Admiral Williams appeared on screen, wearing his dress uniform and looking completely calm. "Counselor Zethkari and members of the Galactic Council," Williams said in a steady voice, "you have demanded that humanity accept limits on our growth, surrender our technology, and submit to genetic modification. Our answer is no. We reject your ultimatum completely. Good luck with what comes next." The transmission ended. For several minutes, the council chamber was silent. Then Zethkari's rage exploded. "Possible," he roared, his reptilian features twisted with anger. "How dare they refuse us? General Krickstar, prepare the fleet for immediate attack." But General Krickstar was staring at his tactical displays with growing confusion. "Counselor, we have a problem. Our surveillance ships report that the human colonies we were planning to attack are empty. Completely empty." "What do you mean empty?" Zethkari demanded. "No people, no ships, no resistance," Krickstar replied. "It's like they just vanished. Our intelligence said there were millions of humans living on these worlds. Now there's nobody." Counselor Murthic, the aquatic representative who had warned against underestimating humans, spoke up quietly. "They evacuated. While we were making speeches and counting our ships, the humans were moving their people to safety."
"Then we'll
attack Earth directly," Zethkari declared. "They can't move their whole planet?" Within hours, the council learned that empty colonies were just the beginning of their problems. Supply convoys carrying food and weapons to council military bases began disappearing. Ships that should have arrived at their destinations never showed up. Communication relays went offline without explanation. Captain Julie Stone smiled as she watched another council supply ship explode on her display screen. Her ship, the Ghost, was humanity's first true stealth vessel. Using technology that Dr. Chin's team had developed, it could become nearly invisible to alien sensors. "Target destroyed," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster. "The 5th supply convoy this week." "Any response from their escorts?" Stone asked. "They're shooting at empty space," Foster replied with amusement. "They know something attacked them, but they can't see us. Their sensors show nothing but background radiation." Stone nodded with satisfaction. The Ghost and 12 other stealth ships were conducting what Dr. Baker called psychological warfare. Every attack was designed to make the council forces nervous and confused. How do you fight an enemy you can't see? On the council's main military base, General Krickstar was discovering that commanding a war against humans was not like fighting other species. His officers brought him report after report of impossible attacks. "Sir," called his intelligence officer, "we've lost 17 supply ships in the last week, but our escorts never saw the attackers. Long-range sensors detected no enemy ships." "In the area? That's impossible," Krickstar growled. "Ships don't just disappear people by themselves." "There's more, sir," the officer continued nervously. "Several of our communication stations have been destroyed. But again, no one saw how it happened. The stations were there one moment and gone the next." Krickstar studied the tactical display, showing their losses. Red marks indicated destroyed or missing ships and facilities. There were too many red marks. "Double all patrols," he ordered. "I want sensors sweeping every sector continuously. Whatever the humans are using, we'll find it." But finding Captain Stone and her stealth ships was not easy. The Ghost used tactics that no council species had ever seen. Instead of engaging in direct combat, Stone's ship would appear just long enough to destroy a target and vanish back into the darkness of space. Lieutenant Foster had become an expert at these hit-and-run attacks. Her youth and flexibility made her perfect for the unconventional warfare that humans specialized in. Captain Foster reported, "I'm detecting a council patrol fleet ahead. 3 destroyers and a cruiser. They're searching for us." Stone studied the tactical display. The alien ships were moving in a standard search pattern, exactly what their training manuals recommended. That predictability would be their downfall. "Take us in close to that asteroid field," Stone ordered. "Let's show them how humans hunt." Ghost slipped between the asteroids like a shadow. Now the council ships continued their methodical search, never knowing that death was moving among the rocks around them. When Stone finally attacked, She destroyed 2 destroyers before the aliens even realized they were under assault. The psychological impact of these attacks was exactly what Dr. Baker had planned. Throughout the Council fleet, soldiers began jumping at shadows. Morale dropped as rumors spread about invisible human ships that could strike anywhere without warning. But the Council's biggest shock came when they tried to implement their main battle plan. General Krickstar had assembled the largest military fleet in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships from 8 different species, all heading toward Earth to end the human problem once and for all. Engineer Tony Lopez was monitoring the enemy fleet from his position aboard the human cruiser Defiance. His sensors tracked the massive alien formation as it moved through space toward humanity's home system. Captain Morrison Lopez called out, "The Council fleet is bigger than we thought. I count 3,200 ships. They're moving in standard battle formation." Morrison studied the display showing the approaching enemy. It was an impressive sight. Ships from multiple alien species, all working together to destroy humanity. Too bad for them that humans had been preparing for this moment. "Any word from Admiral Williams?" Morrison asked. "Yes, sir," replied his communications officer. "Operation Hornet's Nest is a go. All human ships are to implement Tactical Plan Delta 7. Morrison smiled. Plan Delta 7 was something the Council had never seen before. Instead of meeting the alien fleet in a traditional battle, humanity would swarm them from all directions using superior speed and coordination. Dr. Kevin, right, had spent months analyzing Council battle tactics and communication systems. His research had discovered a critical weakness in how the different alien species coordinated their attacks. Admiral Williams, Wright reported from his position on the command ship, "I've identified the flaw in their system. Each alien species uses different communication protocols. It takes an average of 4.7 seconds for orders to reach all ships in their fleet." "How long does it take our ships to receive and act on orders?" Williams asked. 1.2 seconds, sir, right? Replied proudly. "Human ships use standardized systems, and our crews train together constantly. We can coordinate attacks 3 times faster than they can respond." Williams nodded with satisfaction. In space combat, seconds could determine victory or defeat. The Council's diversity, which they saw as strength, to become a critical weakness. When the Council fleet finally arrived at Earth, they expected to find human ships waiting in defensive positions around the planet. Instead, they found something that confused and terrified them. Admiral Zara Thompson was coordinating the human defense from a hidden command center inside an asteroid. Her screen showed the Council fleet spreading out as they approached Earth. They were following standard attack procedures. Just as human intelligence had predicted, all units, Thompson broadcasted to the human fleet, "The enemy is in position. Execute Hornet's Nest. Show them what happens when you poke a human nest." What happened next shattered everything the Council thought they knew about space warfare. Instead of a traditional fleet battle, hundreds of human ships appeared from all directions at once. They came from behind asteroids, from inside gas clouds, from places the aliens never thought to look. The human ships were smaller and faster than Council vessels. They attacked in coordinated groups, hitting specific targets, and then disappearing before the aliens could respond. It was like being attacked by a swarm of deadly insects. Captain Rick Davis led one of these attack groups. His ship Tenacity coordinated with 5 other human vessels to target a Council heavy cruiser. They came in from 6 different directions, fired their weapons, and were gone before the alien ship could return fire. "Target destroyed," Davis reported with satisfaction, moving to next objective. Throughout the battle space, similar attacks were happening everywhere. The Council fleet found themselves shooting at enemies that appeared and vanished like ghosts. Their superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't bring their weapons to bear on targets they couldn't predict or catch. General Krickstar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by tactics he had never seen before. "All ships maintain formation," he ordered desperately. "Don't break ranks to chase individual targets." But maintaining formation made the Council ships easier targets for human attack groups. The aliens were trapped between bad choices: together and get picked apart, or spread out and lose coordination completely. After 6 hours of this nightmare, General Crickstar made the hardest decision of his military career. 6 months after their defeat at Earth, the Council was still trying to understand what had gone wrong. Counselor Zethkari sat in an emergency session, listening to military reports that made no sense to him. "How many ships did we lose in total?" he asked General Crickstar. 1,437 ships destroyed or disabled, Crickstar replied, his voice hollow with defeat. Against human losses of only 62 vessels, the numbers were impossible to believe. Council had attacked with overwhelming force and suffered a crushing defeat. Other species throughout the galaxy were watching. Many were asking uncomfortable questions about Council leadership. "Counselor," Murthak spoke up from his water-filled chamber, "I warned you that humans were unpredictable. They don't fight. Like any species we've encountered before, they cheated," Zethkari hissed. "Proper warfare has rules. You form battle lines, you exchange fire, the stronger force wins." The humans ignored all established military doctrine. "And that's exactly why they won," Murthak replied calmly. "They made their own rules." Meanwhile, Captain Rick Davis was leading another human patrol through what used to be Council space. His ship Tenacity was part of a new kind of fleet that the humans had created after their victory. Instead of large, slow battleships, they used swarms of smaller, faster vessels that could strike anywhere at any time. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Foster from her tactical station. "We're picking up a distress signal from the mining colony on Vega Prime," their reporting council. "Raiders attacking civilian targets." Davis frowned. After their defeat, some Council species had broken away from Central Command and started attacking anyone they could find. These rogue groups were taking revenge for their humiliation by targeting defenseless colonies. "How many ships?" Davis asked. "For Council destroyers, sir," Foster replied. "They're demanding that the colonists surrender all their technology and submit to alien rule. Time to intercept." 18 minutes at maximum burn, reported engineer Tony Lopez from his station. Davis made his decision quickly. "Signal the other ships in our patrol group. Show these raiders what happens when they pick on civilians." The human patrol group consisted of 6 ships. It's much smaller than the Council force attacking Vega Prime. In the old days, it would have meant the humans were outgunned and outmatched. But the old days were over. As they approached the mining, Colony Davis could see the Council ships in orbit around the planet. They were big, powerful vessels designed to intimidate and destroy, but they were also slow and predictable. "Floster, what's your tactical assessment?" Davis asked. The young officer studied her displays carefully. "Sir, they're using standard Council Formation 7. Heavy ships in the center, escorts on the flanks. Very traditional, which means very vulnerable to human tactics," Davis observed. "Lopez, what's the status on our new weapon systems?" Engineer Lopez grinned. "All systems green, Captain. The new plasma cannons are ready to show these aliens what human engineering can do." The weapon systems that Lopez referred to were the latest development from Dr. Chen's research team. It's based on captured Council technology, but improved with human innovations. They could punch through alien shields like they were made of paper. "All ships, this is Davis." The captain broadcast to his patrol group. "We're going to use attack pattern Delta. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and be gone before they know what happened." What followed was a perfect example of the new human way of warfare. Instead of approaching in a straight line for a traditional battle, the 6 human ships came at the Council raiders from multiple directions at once. Captain Julie Stone, commanding a larger stealth ship called the Phantom, attacked first. Her vessel appeared out of nowhere and destroyed one of the Council destroyers before the aliens even knew they were under attack. "Target eliminated," Stone reported calmly. Moving to secondary position, the remaining Council ships tried to respond, but they were facing attacks from 5 different directions. Every time they turned to engage one human ship, another would strike from their blind side. Lieutenant Foster coordinated the attacks with the kind of tactical flexibility that made humans so dangerous. When the Council ships tried to form a defensive circle, she directed the human vessels to attack from above and below. When the aliens attempted to retreat, she had ships waiting to ambush them. Sir Foster reported with excitement, "Their formation is collapsing. They don't know which way to turn." Davis watched as the battle unfolded exactly as human doctrine predicted. The Council ships were individually more powerful, but they couldn't coordinate their responses fast enough to deal with multiple simultaneous attacks. Engineer Lopez was monitoring the performance of their new weapons. "Captain, the plasma cannons are performing better than expected. Are cutting through their shields like they're not even there." The battle lasted only 12 minutes. When it was over, all 4 Council raiders had been destroyed or disabled. The human ships had suffered only minor damage. As news of this victory spread, it became clear that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. The Council's authority was crumbling as more species began to question whether the ancient alliance was still worth maintaining. Dr. Susan Clark was studying these political changes from her research station near Earth. As a specialist in alien cultures, she was trying to understand how human military success was affecting galactic civilization. "Admiral Williams," she reported during their weekly briefing, "we're seeing unprecedented changes throughout Council space. 7 species have declared independence from Council authority. 3 more are demanding major reforms." Williams studied the political maps showing the breakdown of Council control. "What's driving these changes?" "Fear and opportunity," Clark replied. "Some species are afraid that humans will attack them next. Others see our success as proof that the Council can be challenged. Either way, the old order is falling apart." The collapse was accelerating as more species learned about human military capabilities. Stories of the battle at Earth had grown with each retelling. Some aliens now believed that humans could appear anywhere at any time, striking without warning and disappearing like ghosts. Commander Bill Harper was taking advantage of this reputation to establish human outposts throughout the galaxy. His job was to create a network of bases that would ensure humanity could project power wherever it was needed. "The beauty of it," Harper explained to his staff, "is that we don't need to conquer anyone. Most species are so scared of us now that they're offering us base rights voluntarily." Captain Luke Anderson was leading one of these expansion missions. His ship Discovery was exploring regions of space that the Council had kept off limits for centuries. What he found there changed everything, Admiral Williams, Anderson reported from the far edge of the galaxy. "You need to see this. We've found 17 different intelligent species out here. All of them have been suppressed or ignored by the Council for generations." The discovery that the galaxy contained far more intelligent life than the Council had admitted was another blow to their authority. Species that had been told they were too primitive for galactic civilization turned out to have advanced technologies and rich cultures. Dr. Clark interviewed representatives from these newly discovered species. What she learned explained a lot about why the Council had been so determined to control humanity. They were terrified of losing control, she reported to Earth's leadership. For thousands of years, the Council maintained order by keeping species separated and limiting technological development. Humans represented everything they feared: rapid expansion, technological innovation, and the refusal to accept limits. As human ships continued to patrol the galaxy, more Council forces tried to restore their authority through violence. Time, they were defeated by the same tactics that had won the battle at Earth. Captain Morrison, now commanding a small fleet of his own, encountered a Council task force trying to force a rebellious species back into line. The aliens had 12 ships against Morrison's 6, but the outcome was never in doubt. "All ships implement swarm tactics," Morrison ordered. "Let's remind these aliens why threatening independent species is a bad idea." The battle followed the now familiar pattern. Human ships struck from multiple directions, used superior coordination to overwhelm alien defenses, and achieved victory through speed and flexibility rather than brute force. But the most important change was happening. In human space itself, President Kate Walker was receiving delegations from dozens of species who wanted to discuss new relationships with humanity. "They're not coming to surrender," Walker explained to her cabinet. "They're coming to negotiate partnerships. They see us as the new power in the galaxy, and they want to be on our side." The transformation was remarkable. In less than a year, humanity had gone from being threatened with extinction to becoming the most influential species in the galaxy. The Council's attempt to cage humanity had instead unleashed them upon the stars, Admiral Williams summarized the situation in his final report on the war. The Council made a fundamental error. They assumed that because humans were young, we were weak. They confused inexperience with inability. Now they're discovering that sometimes the student surpasses the teacher. 2 years after the failed invasion of Earth, the galaxy looked completely different. President Kate Walker stood at the window of her office, watching ships from dozens of different species dock at the new orbital station above Earth. These were not invaders or conquerors. They were partners, allies, and friends. The change had happened faster than anyone expected. The Council's authority had collapsed not through human conquest, but through simple demonstration that their power was not absolute. Species throughout the galaxy had seen humans defeat the mighty Council fleet, and many decided they wanted to be on the winning side. Ambassador Frank Miller was handling most of these new diplomatic relationships. His office had become the busiest place on Earth as representatives from various species came to negotiate treaties, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. President Walker Miller reported during their morning briefing, "We have 17 new species requesting formal alliance agreements this week. The Kethran want to share their medical technology in exchange for our ship designs. The Vorthan are offering mining rights on 12 worlds if we help them defend against Council loyalists." Walker nodded thoughtfully. "What about the species we discovered in the outer regions, the ones the Council was suppressing?" "They're integrating well," Miller replied. "Captain Anderson's exploration teams have made contact with 43 previously unknown species. Most of them are eager to join what they're calling the Human Alliance." The name had stuck. Even though humanity insisted the alliance was between equals, other species seemed to naturally look to humans for leadership, perhaps because humans had been the first to successfully challenge the old order. Captain Luke Anderson was still leading exploration missions, but now his ships traveled with delegations from multiple species. His latest mission had taken him to the edge of the galaxy, where his team made a discovery that amazed everyone. Earth control. "This is Captain Anderson aboard the Discovery," he transmitted from deep space. "We found something incredible out here. There's an entire civilization that's been hidden from the Council for over 1,000 years. The civilization Anderson had discovered was the Zelenari, a peaceful species that had refused to join the Council centuries ago and had been systematically erased from galactic records. They possessed technology that was different from both human and Council designs, focused on harmony with natural forces rather than domination over them. Dr. Susan Clark was part of the team studying Zelenari culture. What she learned changed her understanding of galactic history. Council didn't just control member species, she reported to President Walker. They actively suppressed any civilization that might offer an alternative to their way of thinking. The Zelenari are just one example. There are probably dozens of others scattered throughout the galaxy. This discovery explained why the Council had been so threatened by humanity. Humans represented the same kind of alternative thinking that the Council had been trying to eliminate for millennia. The difference was that humans had been too strong and too unpredictable to suppress. Meanwhile, the remnants of the old Council were learning that their former authority meant nothing in the new galactic order. Counselor Zethkari sat in what remained of the Council chamber, looking at empty seats where representatives from departed species used to sit. Only 4 species remained loyal to the old system. The rest had either declared independence or joined the growing Human Alliance. The Council that had once ruled thousands of worlds now controlled barely 100. "We could negotiate," suggested Counselor Murthak, whose aquatic species had remained neutral throughout the conflict. "The humans have shown they're willing to make peace with former enemies." Zethkari's reptilian features twisted with anger. "Never. We will not bow to these primitive creatures. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. We will not be replaced by upstarts who have barely learned to leave their home planet." But even as Zethkari spoke, his military forces were deserting him. General Krickstar had resigned in disgrace after the defeat at Earth. Many of the Council's best ships and crews switched sides, joining the human-led alliance that offered better pay, more respect, and the chance to be part of something new. And growing Commander Bill Harper was establishing the final piece of humanity's new galactic presence. His team was building a network of space stations and supply depots that would allow human ships to operate anywhere in the galaxy. But these weren't military bases designed for conquest. They were trade hubs and diplomatic centers that welcomed all species. The key, Harper explained to his construction crews, is making everyone feel welcome. We're not here to rule the galaxy. We're here to make sure it's run better than before. The construction project was massive, involving workers from dozens of different species. Humans provided the engineering expertise and organizational skills, while allied species contributed materials, labor, and specialized knowledge. It was the kind of cooperation that the old council had claimed was impossible. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, was overseeing the security for these construction projects. His job was to protect the workers from attacks by council loyalists who still refused to accept the new reality. Admiral Morrison reported Captain Davis from his patrol ship. "We've got 3 council raiders approaching construction site 7. Looks like they're planning another attack on civilian workers." Morrison sighed. These attacks had become routine. Desperate council forces would strike at construction sites, hoping to slow down the Alliance's expansion. They never succeeded, but they kept trying. Standard response, Captain Davis Morrison. Ordered. Minimal force. Maximum effectiveness. These raiders need to learn that attacking civilians is pointless. The battle that followed was typical of the new era. Davis's patrol group, consisting of ships from 3 different species working together, quickly overwhelmed the council raiders. The aliens were using outdated tactics against forces that had learned to fight like humans. Dr. Kevin Wright was studying these changes in military doctrine throughout the galaxy. Research showed that the human way of warfare was spreading to other species. It's remarkable, Wright reported to Admiral Williams. Species that fought in rigid formations for centuries are now adopting flexible tactics. They're learning to coordinate attacks, use stealth technology, and adapt to changing battlefield conditions. Humans didn't just win a war, they changed how the entire galaxy thinks about conflict. The changes went deeper than military tactics. Trade patterns were shifting as species that had been kept separate by council rules began interacting directly. Technology was advancing rapidly as different civilizations shared knowledge freely. Art, culture, and philosophy were all being transformed by the increased contact between species. President Walker was receiving reports about these changes from throughout the galaxy. What she learned convinced her that humanity had accomplished something far more important than winning a war. "We didn't just defeat the council," she told her cabinet. "We proved that cooperation works better than control." Species that were told they had to choose between submission and isolation are discovering they can have partnership instead. The proof came when the council finally sent a delegation to Earth, not to issue ultimatums or demands, but to request negotiations for peace. Ambassador Miller met the council delegation at the orbital station above. Counselor Zethkarai was not among them. The reptilian leader had been removed from power by his own people, were tired of his refusal to accept reality. The new council representative was Counselor Murthok, whose species had always advocated for peaceful solutions. He came to Earth, not as a conqueror, but as a petitioner seeking terms for coexistence. Ambassador Miller Murthok said during their first meeting, "My people recognize that the old ways have failed. We want to find a new path forward, one that allows all species to prosper." Miller listened carefully to the council's proposals. They were offering to recognize human sovereignty, cease all attempts to control human expansion, and accept the independence of species that had left the council. In exchange, they wanted guarantees that humanity would not seek revenge against council worlds. "We'll consider your proposals," Miller replied diplomatically, "but understand that any agreement must include protections for all the species that the council suppressed or ignored. The age of arbitrary rule is over." The negotiations took several months, but eventually a new treaty was signed. The Galactic Cooperation Accord replaced the old council system with a voluntary association. of independent species. Humans played a leading role, but every species had an equal voice in decisions affecting their territory. Captain Anderson, now exploring regions of space that had been forbidden for millennia, sent regular reports about new discoveries. Ancient civilizations were emerging from hiding. Lost colonies were re-establishing contact with the wider galaxy. Technologies and cultures that had been suppressed for centuries were flowering again. "It's like the galaxy is waking up after a long sleep," Anderson reported. "Everywhere we go, we find species that are eager to share their knowledge and culture. The Council didn't just control them, they made them afraid to dream."